Now we'll move under to public comment. Are there any speaker cards? And just if there is items not on the agenda that you wish to speak on this evening, this would be the opportunity to do so. Also, if there's items that are on the agenda, obviously we have one that a lot of folks are here for under conduct of business. Please fill out a speaker card and hand that to the Deputy City Clerk, Vicki. For public comment, Vicki.
Public comment. Individuals are allowed 3 minutes, groups in attendance 5 minutes. It is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and or action where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to law. The first person I have is about parking tickets, Greg Hutto.
If you go right to the podium, Greg, please.
Hello, everybody, members of the council. My name's Greg, and it's the issue of a parking ticket that I live on a court, Palomar Court, right up the street here. And the other morning, we came out and we all had $50 tickets on our window. My issue is that I've been parking there for some 40 years, the same place, and they want us to park sideways. I can understand that, but we park this way because if we park sideways, there's no room for our cars. We'd be blocking our own driveways. So my issue is that we didn't get notices for the tickets. Some people are saying they did get them, but we didn't get any notices for the tickets. And I have a few neighbors that are going to talk to. They didn't get notices either. They said they were on social media, but I really don't hang out on social media. So I just got the $50 ticket, and that was it. And the issue is the parking on Palomar Court. For all these years, it's never been a problem, so I'm addressing that issue today. And that's about what I have to say about that. So I understand we only get 3 minutes apiece to talk, so that's what we're addressing today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Don't wait for the clerk to call.
Oh. Okay, the next name I have is Jeff Lampshire. Is that you? Perfect.
Perfect timing.
So I'm speaking on the same issue. I took a measurement of the court in question, if that's an issue or relevant. I measured 75 feet across the court, and the perpendicular as opposed to parallel parking didn't seem or has never seemed to be an issue in terms of the turning of vehicles, whether emergency or service vehicles. So, and then again, what was, in my estimation, an inept approach to the parking notification with the warning. One, the warning did not show anything to do with a cul-de-sac. Two, we did not receive them, and certainly not in a mailbox. I was told by community service officers that they were posted on the cars, but that is a very fragile way to post warnings that there's going to be a $50 citation on the way. So we did not get it in the mailbox. The ticketing officers then came at 6:30 or 6:40 in the morning. We did not have any chance to greet them or understand the issue that was going on. So there seems to have been a lack of communication. Greg spoke of there was certain online notifications or public service announcements on the public television, the cable television service, and it depended on people seeing that. And that was not like getting a notification, a warning in the mailbox that actually specified the relevant issue in our case, which was parking on a cul-de-sac. We did see warnings for people parking on streets with adjacent sidewalks, where people were going to be having parking legally with the right side of their car parallel to the curb, but nothing to do with a cul-de-sac. So there's the issues that I had to speak of.
Thank you very much.
The next person is Wylan Lai.
You nailed it.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Wylan. I represent Dover Court on the same issue. We also live on the cul-de-sac. Again, my ticket was at 5:33 a.m., so I had no chance, even though I leave at 6 a.m. in the morning. So right now, I guess I think my biggest issue is the lack of warning. I noticed that other neighbors in my court actually got a warning, but they were warned on parking, on the wrong way of the street, with the head facing the wrong way. And when they got a warning and I didn't, and my car was there, I figured, I think we should be fine. So I think even the warning approach was done inappropriately. Anyway, so I understand the law. I look up the code. I understand that the whole 18 inches and 2 right side wheels, all that stuff. But at the same time, though, in a cul-de-sac, that cuts off a lot of space. Now, instead of having 4 spaces, we have like 2. So I just want the council members to understand the concern, and I also understand the officers are just doing their job. So I still love SB San Bruno Police. You guys are great, but at the same time, though, I just at least want to, if I could get a warning instead of a ticket, that would be much appreciated.
Thank you.
The next person is Elman Wu.
Hello, I'm here to talk about the same issue. I live next door to Wylan, and I got a ticket also. And like he said, a neighbor of ours parked the wrong way, and she got a notice. And it was a notice saying that she parked the wrong way, but it was obvious the parking enforcement officer knew that we were all parked illegally also, and they should have put flyers on our cars and gave us notice. We would love to comply with the law instead of fighting a $50 ticket. We understand the law is there, but it seemed to me that it was done underhandedly. A lot of people were nicer, but I think it was underhanded because it was obvious we were parked the wrong way. The parking enforcement officer came by, gave that person a notice, but no one else a notice. And coming at 5:30 in the morning, it was obvious that, to me at least, that the parking officers knew about our court, knew about those other courts, knew about everywhere that had these problems, or you guys call problems, and they came at 5:30 in the morning and gave everybody tickets. So they were. It was to me. I think it seemed targeted. They knew these places. They knew the courts. They knew the which spots had the cars that were parked the wrong ways. And for I don't know how many officers you guys have for parking enforcement. But to be able to give everyone a ticket within 5:30 to 7 o'clock seemed like it was, you guys knew, they knew where the problem spots were, or what you guys call problem spots, and they knew where to go. So they could have easily given us warnings, and if it's the law, we would be happy to comply. And obviously it is the law, but we would be happy to comply than come down here and fight you guys for, for a refund or for a pardon of the ticket. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Next person is Bunny Epperson.
Good evening. My name is Bunny Epperson, and I've lived in San Bruno since 1954. I'm currently a member of the Senior Advisory Board of the San Bruno Senior Center. I'm here to address the ticket I received this morning parking in front of my own home on a cul-de-sac. I was not given any kind of written notice or anything was put on our cars, any kind of a notification. I do feel that the city should have had some sort of a courtesy to put a warning on my vehicle. Not every household is on social media or subscribes to San Bruno Cable TV. I request an exception or a variance to the current parking code to allow perpendicular parking in front of our own homes on a court. Thank you.
Thank you, Bunny.
The next person is Nathan Chan, but I'm not sure that they want to speak about the parking tickets. Are we?
You're correct. I'm not here to talk about the parking ticket. So I understand that it's always a challenge to find spaces for public meetings like this, but I will say that getting here for me was, I think, a little bit more dangerous than I bargained for. I did not drive here. I walked here from El Camino, and the last stretch of Crystal Springs was quite dicey. I mean, there's no sidewalk there. The shoulder is very narrow. Lucky it was during the day, so the cars could see me. But I don't really want to walk back that way at night. I think it's important for public meetings like this to be held at times and places so that all members of the public can participate. You know, not all of us are traveling by car, and so it would be nice to be somewhere that was, meet somewhere that was walkable and that we could feel safe walking to or biking to. Thank you.
Thank you, and just staff can let you know there is a path that does not go on Crystal Springs, and it goes right to the park, and it's lit. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Just I want you to get home safe.
Next is Kevin Martinez.
Hi, I'm Kevin Martinez, 177 Martin Place. I also I take care of my mom at Palomar Court, and that's where, I'm sure you've heard the issue already with the tow-in parking. We've been living there since 1969. We've been doing that ever since I can remember. I moved there when I was 5 years old. First time I pulled into the property, we pulled in tow first. That is the efficient way to park on that street. In order to change that would be useless. No benefit to it at all. It would just ruin the parking on the whole street. And I think there should be an exception. When we have parties, it's the most efficient way to park. Nobody's complaining about it that I know of. Nobody's ever complained about it in 50 years. All of a sudden it's changed. So I would like it to be an exception for the cul-de-sac.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Very much.
Next is Sandra Perez Vargas.
Hello. I'm really interested tonight in this instant ticketing that everybody received. Like they said, it's the law, but a lot of people didn't know. It's interesting to me because in my neighborhood, on my block, I've been begging people for double parking on sidewalks, and it just seems like we call and call again, and we get no response. Or we call and say, you know, one person is parked this way, and so are 10 others. They're like, well, would you go get the address to every single one? And we don't get that type of response, even though the notices have gone out. So I think that the city really needs to look at having a plan where laws are enforced evenly and fairly, and they listen to the areas. If they're not complaining, then maybe that should be the last place you go. And where you're having a bubbling of complaints and concerns, maybe that should be your first focus instead of surprising people at 5:30 in the morning. And I mean, that's all I have to say. Just go back to the plan, let everybody know. Not everybody's on social media. And in my neighborhood, I am more than happy to see the law enforced because everybody knows what they're doing isn't cool. But in their case, it just didn't seem like anybody was informed at all, and they woke up to those tickets. You know, it's against the law. I get that, so I'm not going to, defend or debate that. But I think we should target where we're focusing. Cars blocking sidewalks. Major issue. I've stood here for the last 3 years. I've written, I think every one of you at some point. Marty, thank you for always coming around and measuring the spots, what can fit here. But every day there's a risk of somebody walking into the street because they have to go around a vehicle that's illegally parked. You all know my friend Steve Rama. He and many other people are in wheelchairs. They're having to maneuver around cars that block the complete sidewalk because there's no parking or for whatever reason. So that's a huge liability. Why would the city risk not focusing on where somebody could get hit, somebody can get killed, and versus everybody's asleep? Priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Next is David Mitchell.
No surprise, I'm here to talk about the parking as well. And I was going to mention that, yes, I agree with everybody that it was sad the way that it was handled, almost as if it was we were ambushed because, of course, nobody at the top of a court received any notices. And even if they had received one, the notice shows a picture of something totally different. It doesn't talk about parking perpendicular. It doesn't talk about any of that type of thing. But we have 6 houses on the court I live on, and there's 8 spaces that just been removed. And I think to relate to the lady who spoke before me here, it actually creates more safety issues. So we're being told to park in your driveway, but you're actually now backing up across the sidewalk. You're being told to park in your driveway, and if you know, San Bruno was built when the codes were a little different, and even our ex-mayor, his bumper is across the sidewalk, and he parks that way for the last, how many years. There's other issues as well. We have a few people who like to do a little exhibition of speed every once in a while. With the bigger, wider court, we have a pretty big court. So they're able to do that, even with the cars parked perpendicularly. But now it's going to make it even more inviting for them to do that. So the concern is that, yes, it was done in a way that wasn't the right way to do it. There was notification. Everybody's got a mailbox. We get notifications about our back gutter. We get notifications about Crystal Springs. It's the way to notify everybody. Not everybody has a computer. Not everybody's on social media. Everybody has a mailbox. So that wasn't done right. And yes, the notices weren't given to us. But the $50 ticket isn't the issue. It's that 6 to 8 parking spaces were taken away. That's going to cause a bunch of other issues. It's also going to cause neighbor conflict. We all know that neighbor conflict, half of that is caused by parking. Somebody's parked in my spot. It's moved. Now all these parking spaces that are missing, they're also going to cause that as well. They're going to have some other issues with cars moving down the street, pushing people out onto other streets, pushing some of the elderly people who are now going to be parking down the street. They're not going to walk all the way down to the end of the block to cross in the crosswalk. They're going to cross in the middle of the street, so they can't park in front of their house. We literally can't park in front of our houses anymore because of this. So we're hoping that San Bruno is a little bit smarter and not just taking a California vehicle code that hasn't been upheld for who knows how many years. I've only been in San Bruno 18 years doing this, but I know many of you have been here a lot longer. Other cities that have a lot more bureaucracy and can't seem to figure out what's going on, they've done some smarter things. In San Francisco, they actually make you park perpendicular because they are spaces where you need more parking, and it makes sense to this. So they take into account what's going on in this street, not just a blanket enforcement that I feel like that most of the people on the top of the court got caught in this web. I don't know that it was really the intent ever to ticket the people at the top of the court. I think this enforcement shows clearly what they were trying to enforce, and it wasn't that. I think somebody made a poor judgment at the last minute to go ahead and ticket all the people at the top of the court because it fits into the actual vehicle code. When I spoke to the young officers who are the volunteer officers that morning, they said, yeah, we don't agree with this either. We didn't think this was right. We asked, and they said, yes, you need to do this. And I think they said that because it doesn't make sense. We have fire trucks. We have UPS
I'm sorry,
trucks.
you exceeded. Could you start to wind up your comments if
Okay.
you could, please?
Well, so anyways, I would like to say thank you, and I would just like to find out what the next step is. I think there's a traffic safety committee, and I think some people are getting sworn here, so hopefully we'll figure this out and do something sensible.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Kevin Martinez would like to speak again on a separate issue.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I'm not trying not to waste anybody's time. There's an issue that's been bothering me for a long time now, and that's San Mateo Avenue. And in the last few years, especially since the indoor pool, every time I go pull off El Camino onto San Mateo Avenue, I'm guaranteed, I say 9 times out of 10, anybody get feel like this, somebody's using the double flashers. Got to go around, across the double yellow line, into oncoming traffic. Now, I've had a police officer, I don't know who it was, right in front of me, crossed into the other side against the grain. 3 cars later, cuts back and just kept taking off. Didn't issue a ticket or anything. If it was Mission Street and it had 2 lanes going in each way and we can get around the double parkers going in the right direction, that would be fairly safe. But the fact we have to cross a double yellow line, and literally, I was down by the music store. I had to go to the music store. I went and parked in the parking lot and back because there was a guy parked. I went around him right in front of the music store. He's in the music store just browsing around. He has his BMW parked right in the middle of the street. Everybody's going around him. It's building up in the other direction because these guys can't go. It's against the grain. And I see this every day, 9 times out of 10. I drive down there, watch, there's gonna be somebody with their park anywhere lights. And sure enough, I gotta cross over against the grain going the wrong way. None of these cars are getting tickets for going the wrong way, but nobody's getting tickets for parking anywhere they want. I went around, I found a spot, I always do. I never do that. But apparently people think it's okay. I think we should start enforcing that so we can get a good example to stop that behavior. So we can proceed safely down our main street there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no more speaker
Is there
cards.
anybody else that wanted to speak on an item that is not on the agenda that's here this evening? Seeing none, go ahead. So we live in we'll say it's kind of getting to a medium-sized city, but it's kind of it's still a small town in my world. And so I started receiving some calls and on Saturday. So I've had an opportunity to talk to the city manager, so I'd asked the city manager if he could, because knowing this topic would probably come up and some concerns, and enough of you have come here, so I'd like some feedback. We got the feedback, so I'd like to turn over to staff since you're here. City manager.
Sure. Good afternoon, Mayor. My name is Javon Grogan, city manager, and I will, at your request, respond to some of the public comment.
Yes, please.
As we know, parking is a significant issue in San Bruno, not just on the east side of town, but throughout. One of the challenges that we face is not just wrong-way parking, but also sidewalk parking. Shortly after my arrival as the city manager 9 months ago, it was brought to my attention that the city did a proactive enforcement of sidewalk parking approximately a year ago, but that was stopped due to some pressure because of the number of tickets that were being received. The challenge is that the problem didn't go away. We still face a significant issue with sidewalk parking and wrong-way parking, and so as you guys all know, there was a 3,000 signature petition that was delivered to the city council essentially begging the community to do something about the parking challenges. And we had a parking town hall, and there's a whole list of strategies that staff is working on vis-a-vis parking, whether it's changing some of our zoning and building codes to allow people to provide more off-street parking, whether it's working on the implementation of a residential parking program. But another prong that was asked for was additional enforcement. And so we put together a plan to step up enforcement of parking issues, sidewalk parking and wrong-way parking in particular. There was a public education campaign on wrong-way parking that the community was absolutely right. It was really geared towards wrong-way parking on parallel streets, not really cul-de-sacs and the perpendicular angled parking. That public education was delivered on social media. It was delivered via press release. There was an article in the San Mateo Daily Journal, and there were various posts on various social media platforms about that. And so a month of warning notices went out, and the city issued approximately 2,700 warning notices in neighborhoods all throughout the city. One of the things that was said when the community asked for enforcement, they said, don't do what we feel like has been done before and just concentrate your enforcement on one side of town. Don't just enforce on the east side of town. And we committed to not do that. We committed to actually having an enforcement posture that was citywide. And so there was a month of warning notices, and after that month of warning notices, citations were issued. I will submit that it was never the intention for citations to be issued on the courts without going through a very detailed and process to decide. Although it has been going on for 60 years, as some have said, and although it is illegal, can it be legalized? And what I will submit to council, and I mentioned to the council members, is I'm willing to take that, and we'll take that to the Traffic Safety and Parking Committee. And it may not be possible to legalize it on every court, but there are likely a number of courts where it can be legalized, and there is the appropriate turning radius to have the perpendicular and parallel parking. What I would submit to anyone that received a parking citation in a cul-de-sac is that there is a process for an appeal. It does not cost to do an appeal. If you go online on the City of San Bruno's website, www.sanbruno.ca.gov, under the police department, it details the parking citation process. And you can submit it online within 21 days, or you can do it in writing within 21 days. And this is specific, and what I'm saying is that people that received a citation on a court, I would suggest that you go through that process. It is unfortunate that our information campaign did not talk about courts, and that did not happen, nor was it the intention when we were enforcing on wrong-way parking. Kind of elevating that California Vehicle Code that says parking the wrong way is illegal was our intention to elevate it for the courts without a very detailed process. So we'll start that process, and I encourage the members of the community that spoke tonight, or those that received a citation in a cul-de-sac I think it's really been over the last 3 days that this issue has occurred, to go through that process. Thank you.
Hold on, sir, please. So we got to speak because we're on TV. But so what the city manager just reported to us was, if you received a citation, to go through the appeal process. If you're not sure, you didn't write it down, you can call the city clerk's office. We can get you the information. 2 is whether or not to have some of this question go to the TSPC and have them take a look at it and see where it could be legalized if it meets the parameters of what's been discussed. Is the council fine with that being sent to the TSPC? Council? Yes?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike. What was that? In regards to the cul-de-sac. Go ahead, City Manager.
Yeah, I will also add that I've instructed the police department to, in their enforcement of wrong-way vehicles, to deprioritize enforcement on cul-de-sacs until we can go through the process through the TSPC and find out on what cul-de-sacs it is possible to legalize it and on what cul-de-sacs it needs to remain illegal.
Yeah. Nope.
Absolutely. I was asked for those at home to repeat the question, or to repeat my statement. And what I said is that I've instructed the police department to deprioritize the wrong vehicle enforcement on cul-de-sacs until we can go through the formal process through the Traffic Safety and Parking Committee to determine per cul-de-sac what cul-de-sac meets the appropriate turnarounds to legalize angled or perpendicular parking, and on what cul-de-sacs it needs to remain against the law for perpendicular or angled parking.
Can I make a comment? I just have concerns with this having to go back to Traffic and Safety Committee. They've got a number of issues that aren't getting addressed as it is. I don't know if we can streamline this process and have staff review this with the chief and determine if there's a recommendation they can come back to council at next month's meeting that we can have a better discussion. Because I don't know that we, like the comments we've heard tonight, that addressing the cul-de-sac problem was the right approach. So.
Sure. So I think what I would say to that council member is that it really needs to be done. If we're looking to formally take an action to legalize angled or perpendicular parking on cul-de-sacs, that requires a process where our traffic engineers need to look at it on the cul-de-sac, because when streets are designed, they're designed with statutorial radiuses. And so if we are taking a formal action to legalize something, even though it's been done informally for quite some time, we really want to go through the formal process to make sure that that's been vetted. And so I do think we can't do that by next meeting, but I understand your point, which is if it goes to the TSPC, it needs to be prioritized and not be put at the bottom of their already long list of priorities. Understand that.
Okay.
So again, I want to thank those that came out to bring this forward. And again, like I said, I did start to hear this from some on Saturday morning. And so to repeat, again, appeal if you received the citation. TSPC will get this item as a priority to look at it, and it is now not a priority to have those cul-de-sacs being ticketed. And so will be held back until the review can be done. So hopefully that, I just wanted to reiterate that since you folks took your time to be here, so I wanted you to hear that. And with that, then we're going to go ahead and move on since there's no more public comment. So thank you all for being here that came to speak on those items, on that item.